I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to the Creation Care 101 information meeting. And thank you all for being here. We're just going to be respectful of everyone's time. We just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the plan for our time. We are going to do a short overview of the program and then move into how it works, a summary of that. We also are going to share some past results, some wonderful past results. And then, of course, talk about the upcoming program dates and the offerings for that and next steps. And then we will wrap up in some Q&A and discussion to answer any further questions that you all may have. And should do all that in about half hour to 40 minutes ish is kind of what it's been running. So we will proceed forward. And again, thank you so much for being with us in this tonight. So moving into the overview, and just to give a brief overview of the Creation Care Collective, the Creation Care 101 program is presented by the Creation Care Collective. And as far as the founders, Russ, who is talking some there too, Russ and I are founders and the co-executives, directors of the Creation Care Collective. And our daughter, Kaylee, is another one of the founders as well. Some of you have met her before, I believe. Kaylee is a graduate student at Yale doing a dual master's in divinity and ecology. And she's also had the privilege of working as a Creation Care Fellow and being part of Churchlands cohort of Episcopal priests and lay leaders doing some regenerative work on church lands. So she's one of the founders. And then Russ and I, both husband and wife, we bring some additional lenses. We have been owners of 7 businesses over our careers, and including large technology companies and retail companies. We were part of the founding team of the Knot.com in the online wedding website, which many of you are familiar with, and helped take that company public. And then most recently, we founded Bibles by the Case, which serves over 120,000 churches across denominations and was one of the largest sellers of Bibles in the United States. And in our journey with over the last 20 years with thousands and thousands of churches, this need and desire to steep into what we could do to walk alongside churches with creation care work has come up in the forefront. So the Creation Care 101 program was born and functions with the aim of helping faith-based organizations and churches just either begin or continue to sustain holistic creation care work over time. So basically through our experience and our research, we realized that this work is really multifaceted, as you all know already. And there's just a lot of support needed at every step of the way, and it takes everyone. So that is how that was born. And moving on, so over the last 30 years, as you all know, incredible and crucial work has been done in religion and science on care for our common home. And everywhere from countless individuals and organizations, such as all your churches and individuals such as you all and all the colleagues, and then all kinds of large organizations like Yale's Forum on Religion and Ecology and Earth Charter and the Global Catholic Climate Covenant, Interfaith Power and Light. So many organizations have done so much work, and without all of this work that's already been done and continues to be done, imagining a holistic program like the Creation Care 101 program would just not have been possible. And we are very, very thankful. And we do work with a whole host of advisors, some of the ones listed here in both the United States and in the UK. And they have just been hugely, continually helpful in creating and updating curriculum, and then also helping with implementation tools and things like that. So also the there are some specific Creation Care 101 goals, but first, this green funnel has become a creative visual of the program. This idea of consolidating and simplifying and curating for churches. There's been so much work done that it can be overwhelming for a Creation Care leader, as you know, to figure out where to start or even in continuing. So we are constantly curating and simplifying information and resources specifically for the church to help make the work accessible and practical. And again, this program is an educational program as well as a toolkit and a conversation guide. It builds community, and it's this idea of exploring the relationships of faith and environmental stewardship and justice in both church and home contexts. So some of the specific goals are to map that theology and justice and science of creation care, and then to model heart-led conversations in all three, and then to really mobilize an actionable steps with a solutions forward approach that is curated specifically for church and home. So, and the aim, I'd say, we would say of the program goals is to really inspire long-term behavioral change in faith-based organizations and churches and homes and even wider communities, and just walking alongside and giving those tools at the fingertips to do the work. So, and then some of the program characteristics. This is a free ecumenical program. It's both hosted education and accessible implementation together. It is live via Zoom. It's a facilitated program. So you can come as you are. The folks you invite can come as they are and show up at the sessions. We send out automatic reminders and follow up with summaries. Everyone who's registered in the program automatically gets copies, or I would say gets copies of the sessions and recordings of the sessions. So if somebody happens to miss one, that's not a problem. They can listen back whenever it's convenient. And then again, and the other program, it is ecumenical. It has been tested across 10 denominations, and it is, like we said, very solution focused specifically for church and home. And it's this combination of learn, discuss, do, and learn, discuss, do in each of the elements. So those are some of the characteristics. And that is a quick overview of the program. And Russ is going to give us a kind of a summary of how it specifically works. You can take it.
All right, great. Thanks, Becky. I appreciate you doing all of that. And so just real quickly, the Creation Care 101 program, I'm going to start with just an overview of the entire program. And we cover eight topics, and we have them listed here for you. And the program is really about going through this process of starting to shift our values. We talk about shifting from consumers to caretakers or stewards or co-participants in creation. And the course is really about all of the choices that we make as individuals and churches and how those choices impact creation and the other people that we share creation with. We start with an introduction and the question of what does our faith say about creation care? And then we journey into how we can align the values of our faith with the choices that we make every day. So we go through how we eat, how we purchase, how we can grow food. We look at waste and water and energy. And then we ask along the way, how can we make choices that are good for us, that are good for creation, and that are good for our neighbor all at the same time? And that starts to, when we start to do that together, we integrate very naturally the theology of creation care, the science of creation care that gives us a way of measuring the impact that we have in our choices, and the justice work of environmental justice and creation justice to make sure that those changes that we apply are applied fairly and equitably across the population. So, and then we also, as we go through it all, we talk about how can we do these things so they're good over time. So it's not just good today, but good as we continue forward. I'm going to shift now and actually talk about the structure of a single session. So we're going to kind of narrow in on if the program is made up of those 8 topics, we're going to look at just one topic specifically right now. And each of the topics as we cover them, each of the sessions, we call them sessions and topics, are really structured in five parts. We open with a time of connection and hospitality. We like to think of it as setting the virtual table and welcoming people into our home and just creating a friendly and open space. And then we move into a time of education and teaching, and we'll have presentations that cover science, justice, theology, sometimes more than one of those in a single session. And in the work that we've been doing, we've seen that storytelling particularly tends to have some of the biggest impact in the program. So we always leave space for inspirational stories and highlighting the work that other people are doing in this space. And if you remember back to one of our big goals of modeling heart-led conversations, that happens in each session. We break out into small groups and move into this conversation time where we just pose some simple questions and invite people to talk about the topic we're discussing. We come back together at the end of each session and really focus on implementation. And this is where we get into our solutions forward approach of just making sure that every topic we cover also includes very accessible solutions that we can implement in our homes and in our churches. So I'm going to just walk you through very quickly kind of an example of what we mean by all this. This is just a brief overview of the first topic we cover, the introduction to faith, science, and creation care. And again, we start with this time of connection. So we might welcome people in and ask people to share maybe how they feel most connected to the natural world, or an easy question to start sharing things. As we move into a time of teaching and education, we have an example from Bishop Michael Curry, just introducing the theology of creation care. We also do an overview of the Laudato Si. And then as we move into science, we actually introduce the drawdown framework. And that becomes part of this overall framework of drawdown, which is very, very solutions focused. And we take a small set of those solutions from drawdown that are applicable to churches and homes, and we introduce them as we go through the various topics. So this kind of sets the stage for the scientific basis for our solutions as we move forward. We get into the inspirational piece. In this example, we share a part of a keynote speech from Catherine Hayhoe, where she's talking about a climate of hope and the importance of maintaining hope and the importance that faith communities can bring hope into this conversation. And it's just a great segment and really sets the tone for the whole program. After that, we'll break out into our conversation time. So we'll actually take the whole group and split them up into groups of maybe 4 or 5 people. And just ask simple questions like, what is one of your earliest memories of encountering the sacredness and beauty of creation? Or how did the drawdown presentation help you understand what's happened or what is happening? And generally we leave room for 3, maybe 4 questions. Not everybody gets through all of them, but we've found the conversations are very lively and great. And then we come back together and talk about implementation. And in the very first session, the implementation looks like, how do we get to know the land that we share and inhabit? So we start to talk about things like story mapping and land acknowledgements and exploring the ecosystems and waterways and environmental justice issues that are present in the land that we share.
Some simple tools of how to identify that.
Absolutely.
Quickly.
And then at the end of each session, so this was actually that we're done with the session, we're into the next day. We share recordings with everybody that's participated in case someone missed something. And then we also provide going deeper resources. So if there is somebody in your congregation or maybe a leader that wants to take this topic into a deeper place, they have a very curated list of resources and tools available to start that work. So this is not a giant link farm with 50 things you have to sort through to make sense of. It's a very tightly curated list of things to support the topics we've been discussing. So that's a quick overview of the whole program. The other thing that I would say is that throughout, there's a couple extra things that happen for the leaders. So we also provide support tools, budgeting tools, meeting outlines, so that if a team leader wants to do implementation, say we're talking about composting and somebody wants to implement composting in their church grounds, we provide the tools and budgeting templates and all of that to make that process easy for the team leaders. So that's a quick overview of everything. And we ran this. This is not the first iteration of the program. We actually ran this program last year. So Becky's going to share real quickly just some of the past results. Last year was the first year that we ran the program. So it was a bit of a pilot program. We learned a ton and it just had great feedback from it. She's just going to share that with you really quickly.
Yes, thanks, Russ. Yes, so last year we were really thankful in 2022, we did a pilot program of this, and we initially were planning to do the pilot with about 15 churches. And as soon as we opened it up, the pilot registration, over 55 churches signed up, and across 10 denominations. So we actually ran the pilot with all 55 churches, which was fantastic. And the churches did represent 10 different denominations across the country. So it was wonderful to do the pilot in that way. So some of the feedback, we did a pretty extensive survey at the end of the pilot, just so we could capture and learn from the impact and learn from things that we could change. As we're going through the survey results, you'll notice that the pilot was actually called the Growing Together program, which most of the churches love the name. The only thing they did ask us is, when we actually relaunched the program again, to have the name be more specific to exactly what it is, so that they didn't have to explain it. So we actually, that's the name Creation Care 101 has come out of that, which the churches are thus far thrilled about, because it's simple and they don't have to explain it. So anyway, we were interested to know participants' knowledge and experience of creation care prior to the pilot program. And about half shared that they had good to extensive knowledge and experience, and about half had minimal. So it was a really good representation of lots of knowledge and newness, actually. The first part of our program goals, as you know, is really educational. And so mapping the intersections of faith, science, and justice, the red and orange bars represent improvement in the slide. So 94% had improved understanding of faith and creation care, and 94% also had improved understanding of science and creation care, and 97% had improved understanding of justice and creation care. And one of our bigger surprises was that even with the majority of the people with the extensive prior experience in creation care, 6 of the 7 reported some or significant improvement over the course of the pilot as well, which was fantastic. Also, the last part of our program goals is inspiring folks to take action and to get to do things, specific things. In this graph, the blue and orange represent those who did or are planning to take action. So 88% of participants made changes in their homes, and 91% of participants made changes in their churches, which was fantastic. And being able to do that simultaneously in both places was the hope. And that's what happened in a lot of cases. To just be able to do that walk of living out our faith in this way in both church and home. And then the feedback that we were getting is there was these themes kept emerging. So many were just really saying thank you for connecting faith and science and creation in this way, in a way that we were able to make change. Also, just an appreciation for the ecumenical dimension was just really powerful and inspiring to folks. And this theme of getting to use some of the materials from the program for sermons, which is always a wonderful deal to do. It's like some folks started doing activities and actions again from the sermon, so it was great. So things like this, and then lots of results in increased numbers of folks' creation care teams, as well as if they didn't have one already, starting their teams. So that was great. And then there was specific feedback. We asked participants about the most meaningful things they learned in the program. And these were the top responses. This idea that small changes equal big impact really created a lot of hope as well, which was another theme. But this idea that we really zeroed in on the church and the specific small changes churches can make, and really understanding how big of an impact that is. And then this also, amongst meaningful things learned, this idea of just not being alone in the desire to honor God's creation and the spirit of the group. So many churches ended up working together in their own regions because they were just meeting. And some multiple different denominations are working together too, which is fantastic. And this ecumenical idea really allows for us to be able to pull from the vast amount of incredible tools and resources across the denominations and pull them together and uplift them into what's really working and share that with all the denominations. So that was fantastic. Also, of course, this idea of hope, and then this idea that simple tools and curated resources makes the doing possible and very accessible. So that was that. So, and then overall, pilot takeaways. Yeah, Russ, can you go to the slide right before? Perhaps, yes. On the overall feedback, we asked folks, would you recommend the program? And 94% of participants want other members of their church to do the program, and 97% of participants would recommend the program to other churches, which was very helpful to understand and know. And then just general overall pilot takeaways. This idea that hosted education led to changes in homes and churches. And that it was really effective across denominations and experience levels for the most part. And then, this other theme that we keep talking about, that hope is as important as truth telling, and really helps us to get some things done too. And then, of course, one of the biggest pilot takeaways is that almost 100% of the participants are recommending the program to their church and to other churches, which we are very thankful to know. So Russ is going to jump in and just talk about the upcoming offerings and dates of the programs coming up, and then we will open it up for questions.
Yeah, we have about 2 or 3 more minutes. This last bits go very quickly, so we're approaching the landing of the plane very fast.
Yes.
So just real quickly, so we have 2 programs coming up. We're running the program this summer, and then also in the fall. And there's a little bit different structures to each of them. So we'll start with the summer program. There's 12 hours of content and time that we go through in the program overall. So for the summer program, we're breaking that up into 6 weeks, 6 sessions, 2 hours each session. So this starts June 9th. We're about 6 weeks away from starting the program. And then there's 3 sessions that are in June, and then we take a break for 4th of July, and then 3 sessions in July. And then we're wrapped up for the summer. So this is going to be going through the material pretty quickly. And we're encouraging the team leaders to actually maybe meet with their team during that week break that we take off during 4th of July, or maybe save the meeting at the end to start talking about how you can do implementation in the church context. And then for the fall program, we're running it in the same structure that we did for last year. So the fall program is 8 sessions. So we have those 8 topics split up once a month, and it's only an hour and a half each session. So the sessions are a little shorter. And one of the things that worked really well last year is that for the team leaders, they were able to meet with their local teams in between sessions. So we'd have a session on food and talk, and then they would meet with their local team at the church to talk about how they can apply food changes in the church. And that rhythm of meeting as a large group, then meeting individually with the church, going back to a large group meeting, and then meeting individually with the church was really effective. So
the only thing sorry to interrupt, just
Yeah.
that I really wanted to add since we're on this, is that all the session dates are aligned with the church calendar.
Yeah.
So there's nothing right before Christmas, there's nothing right before Easter and Lent and all of this. So it's very aligned with the church calendar to make that all accessible and
exactly.
complementary with what everyone's already doing.
And then just one other practical part, we run each session 2 times. We meet at 7 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Pacific. So it's the same content that we run they're on Thursdays, typically. And they run basically, we run the session twice. So our West Coast contingent can meet at 7 p.m. Pacific. The East Coast contingent can meet 7 p.m. Eastern. The Central and Mountain times can choose whichever time works best for them. So that's completely fine.
Both are live.
Both are fine. So if you do choose to register, we do have, there's an individual option and there's a leader option, and both people or both selections get access to the program. There's no cost for either option. And the only difference is that when we identify the leaders, we do send some additional material and tools to the leaders that we don't send to the individuals. Those are typically things like, if you're going to host a meeting, we provide a meeting outline. Some of the team leaders are actually making presentations to their committee or their vestry to do a project, and we provide some tools and things for budgeting or preparing a presentation. And those are the things that we share with the leaders. And then we also do ask the leaders to be engaged in recruiting people from their congregations to participate in the program. So we also provide the tools for that. So we'll provide templates for sending out an email invitation or putting in a blurb in the newsletter or whatever it is that they need. So you choose whichever one is most appropriate for that. The individual might be just the regular congregation attendees or a group participant. The leaders could be a pastor, a team leader, vestry member, could be a school leader, a teacher. We have that whole group of people there.
Yes, and the other thing I'd like to add to that too is the leaders. The other reason we like to identify who the leaders are is because at some time in the sessions, we do pull the leaders together so that you can all have an optional additional interaction if you should like to.
Absolutely. Registration's open for both programs, for both summer and fall. And you can register just at creationcarecollective.org. And we'd love to have you guys as part of this if it's something that you're interested in. We just had such a great group of people going through this program last year. We had about 250 participants of the 55 churches. We're probably expecting somewhere in that neighborhood again for the summer. And there's still spots available. So if it's something that you're interested in, we'd encourage you to register as quickly as you can. And that's all really for us. So we'd love to kind of move into a time of question and answer, or discuss anything that wasn't clear. And thank you for your time for doing this. I know it's a lot, and we're all Zoom fatigued and weary, and at any rate, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get us back together here. And like I said, thank you so much. We have a relatively small group tonight, so if you have a question or a comment, please go ahead, just unmute yourself and feel free to ask or share anything you'd like to.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a question.
Hi, Sheila.
Sure, Sheila. Hi.
Hi. Well, actually, I think I might actually have two.
Okay.
One, my church is urban.
Okay. Yeah.
My home is not. We actually live on 6 acres and have like a little mini farm, but
Awesome.
my church is 1 block from the capital of the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, we're like really urban. Is there some way that, do you talk about what to do in urban situations?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and that's a great point. And so we're not just focused on churches that have, acres and acres of land that they can put a garden on. That's a solution that works for some churches, but there's many groups that were participating in the program last year and will be this year that are in exactly that, in urban settings. And so we talk about the ways that you can participate. Composting in a rural church might look like something that you can do on site, right? You can provide compost bins and piles and things like that. In an urban setting, maybe it's partnering with a regional or a local composting partner so that you can encourage composting to happen in your home. Or we had one of our churches started a composting program where they provided a pickup spot at the church. So people brought their compost to church and it worked out really well.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so we talk about all those contexts because it's a diverse group, different settings. Yeah.
Okay. And I know you touched on the differences between the weekly program and the monthly program, but I see there's 6 topics in the weekly program and there's 8 topics in the monthly program. Does that mean the 2 that aren't in there are not going to be discussed, or they're going to be spread out?
So the 6-week
because I'm really interested in the gardening one. So
yes. Russ, do you want me to answer that?
No, I got it. So the math works out. The math just happens to work out. So 8 weeks of an hour-and-a-half sessions gives you 12 hours of time. 6 weeks of 2-hour sessions also gives you 12 hours of time. So we actually have the same amount of time and we cover the same topics. We just kind of merge a couple of them together as we go along, but we're covering the same material. So
it's a thorough merge, though.
Yes.
It's a very thorough merge, and the garden topic, Sheila, is like the other ones, are totally and in full. And I would say, to your first question, one of the stories that we share is of an urban church, how they creatively were able to do a community garden by doing some really creative things with a parking lot next to them. So there's some, but we talk about both. But we talk about it in a very curated, focused way, so that it's kind of at your fingertips. If you're if it's an urban solution or a rural solution.
Yeah, and then Sheila, just because this comes up a lot, the summer program and the structure for the summer program was part of the feedback we got from last year's participants. One of the questions we asked in our evaluation was, how was the pace of the program? Because we were meeting once a month. And we wanted to know, was the pace good? Did it go faster, or how did that feel? And 2/3 of the participants felt like the monthly program or the monthly pace was just right, and that was actually good. But there was a solid third that were pretty vocal about, it could have gone faster for me, and I'd love to be able to get through the material in a quicker way. So the summer program is our response to do that. It'll be the first time we run it in this format for this summer, but there's been some nice benefits too. It's during the summer, it's a nice, easy way for some schools to participate. So we're anticipating having a few classes come through where We can have some high school students actually participate in the program with us.
And youth groups, things like that.
Yeah, in their groups. So we're going to try it, and we're excited. We've spent a lot of time trying to merge the sessions together, so we're covering the same content. But I think it's going to work really well.
And I would say the summer session though does have pastors in it, and
Yes.
churches, and some schools too.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
it's
mix.
nice combination.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Julia. Go ahead.
Hi. What do you mean when you say when I register as a leader, my church is also registered? Does it mean they don't have to actually register?
Yeah. Okay. So if you register as a leader for your church, that will have, there's not a separate registration that your church has to do.
Okay.
So there's no additional fee or registration process for your church. When you register for the program, it'll ask you if you're registering as a individual or a leader. So just pick which one makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, I registered as a leader.
Okay, then you're great.
And you're great. And what that does is that just reserves a place for your church, with us knowing that there's going to be multiple individuals too that'll probably be registering from your church. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's great. And I had one little question about my adult, well, they're now young adults, but my group, we often participate with the city-run programs of creek cleanups to improve our watershed. And I wondered if, when you mention watershed, will you be talking about as a church or as faith-based to integrate with the creek cleanups and recycle, reuse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I figured that. So I'm gonna
that's perfect. So that's exactly, that's part of the discussion. Obviously, water use and is also part of the discussion in environmental care. So, but clean waterways, water pollution, water usage, kind of those topics would be the subsets.
And now we're facing the extra topic of homeless and unhoused are camping near our creeks and affecting our watershed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
No, that's okay. It's great.
Julia, another thing I was just thinking is that if any of the folks or collaborators that your group is working with, if you want to invite them to the program as well, it's free to all. So please feel free to invite them to register.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Beautify San Jose is the organization that we.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, San Jose.
Thanks. I think this is awesome. I'm looking forward to the summer session.
Oh,
I've got to
great.
go.
Oh, great.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Laura or
I think,
Laura and Laura? Both
Demetrio and I think Laura and both Lauras actually have questions, I thought.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Laura Lunsford. I'll go after you, Laura Lunsford.
Okay. I think you touched on mine, so this will hopefully be quick. If we have a small group from our congregation that wants to meet together, is that okay to have
Absolutely.
Absolutely
4 or 5 people that are meeting in the same space? I've got some elderly people who don't do well with Zoom, and it's just easier to get them to the church and set it up for them.
Yes.
Totally fine.
In fact, Laura, that is just a fantastic idea. And actually, I think we will add that to our information slides as well, because that is absolutely, if you can do that, feel free to do that. Some youth groups might do that. Some small groups might do that. And you can absolutely do that. And in fact, when you do that, if you could remind us in the session that you're doing it so that we can uplift that to the whole group to give people ideas to do that. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And the other thing, Laura, that we could very easily do for that situation is that if you're going to be like the leader of your group, we would give you the discussion questions ahead of time. So when we do a small group breakout, just have your group do a discussion live with each other. And then everybody else can participate in the virtual groups. And that's totally fine. It would work.
That's
great.
what I've done in other situations, and it works well.
Yes. And it's very
Thank
simple.
you.
Just print out the questions.
Yeah. All right. Laura, did you want to ask?
And Demetrio too.
Yeah, both.
Well, mine is actually mostly answered due to your response to Laura's, which is there a cap on, we actually we've started a garden and composting, and we're well on our way because of a grant that we received.
Ah, excellent.
Congratulations.
So yeah, we're pumped. This y'all is answered prayers, really. This is the way I had a conversation with our garden director this week about how do you get the parish to be educated in order to sustain the project and for them to care. And this is it. This is it. I'm wondering, because of that, this fits for our youth. This fits for our entire, we have a Grow to Be Alliance. Do you have a cap on parish involvement?
Well, so there's a technical, there's a practical cap. We probably do not want to have more than 300 to 400 people in a single session live. So maybe, we might have maybe a cap of 600 to 700 total people for the summer program, but we have plenty of space for that. I don't imagine you're talking about bringing 100 people.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say for the summer program, we're in great shape. Particularly the fall program, we're getting some larger groups that are interested in the fall program. So that's we may end up capping at some point, closing registration for the fall program, but I think the summer program is going to be totally fine.
And I would also say to Laura, we are, and to each of you, we are very much we've journeyed with churches, over 120,000 churches over the last 20 years. And we very much are interested to consistently know tell us what you need in this space. If you need to bring 4 people or 100 people or each of these groups so that your church can do it simultaneously amongst youth and adults and the green team, then tell us that, and we can adjust the technology to have the larger groups.
Wow.
So that is our heart and our thank the Lord, our background to be able to do that. So this is we're walking alongside you and you're walking alongside us, and just keep that dialogue going and tell us what you need.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, that's great.
I would say though, on that note, if you could let us know that this is what I'm imagining and this is what might be possible. If you sign up as a leader, and say, just a note, I may be this may end up being about this many people and this many people and this many people, that gives us some planning and foresight to make space for that. Okay.
All right, Demetrio, I know you had some questions. Thank you for being patient.
Well, mine are not questions. Mine is just glory and praise to God for each of you.
Oh, thank
and
you.
For all that God has, you're truly great disciples of the Lord and serving all of creation. I was invited by my pastor, Father Jack at Sacred Heart Church. So apparently he's the one who was touched by you both.
Yeah.
And he's invited an invitation to the whole parish. And so I'm very greatly touched, and I look forward to participating and any ideas that I gather from the training. Father Jack has invited me just to let him know. And then we have another member of the church who's part of it as well. And we will implement it. So thank you so much, and blessings upon all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Father Jack is
please tell Jack hello.
I will.
Jack, hello.
I will.
Yeah. And then I guess there's a couple of questions that have tended to come up in the other meetings that we've held to do this. One of them has to do with kind of our focus on advocacy or not, or where that fits. And we kind of talk about, there's 3 big parts that you might think about in dealing with creation care or environmental justice issues. You might think about the government policy as one part of that. You might think about the actions of industries and corporations as part of that, and then our action as individuals and where that fits. This program is really focused on our individual responsibilities and actions. We touch on advocacy and and corporate responsibility lightly, but that's not the primary focus for us. There's people doing great work in that space. And most of the work that we do there is pointing you to the other resources that are already available. But our niche is really talking about individual and group responsibility and what we can do and the impact of the choices we make. So we're not very politically focused. We have a lot of discussion about that, but we're real kind of narrowed in on solutions and what can we do to actually start to make a difference. So that idea of small changes sustained by a lot of people, sustained over time, leading to big impact, that's our wheelhouse. That's where we live. So
where we all live.
yes.
It's nice to know we're all living it together and we can
Yes.
share in what each other is
Yeah.
doing and do our part, but doing it together with understanding the impact that each of us are making as a whole together for the large creation, and how that is good for us, good for our faith, good in our faith, and good for us and good for our neighbor.
Okay. Any other closing thoughts, comments, questions?
If not, if you all wouldn't mind, I have a question for anyone who'd like to share. Yeah. Like I shared earlier, what would you say is one or two of the most important things you all are needing right now in this space? Whether it is
Education, tools.
Whether it is simple education, curated tools, whether it's just knowing there's some other folks doing this work, whether it's more
just
hope.
any thoughts? We'd love to just quick thoughts and then we'll let everybody go. Go ahead, Demetria.
Yes.
What you have done is you've given me hope, because in my area, I'm very much aware of climate change because of how we are misusing our planet's resources, using our oceans as trash bins, killing the life there and stuff. So you're giving me a hope to find that we work together and finding ways in each of our areas to do something about it. So I really, thank you. I really appreciate this program.
Great. Laura, that's great. Science education.
Amen to that.
I think something that
sure.
that I'm hoping will happen is to have a forum to get people excited about it.
Yeah.
We have a small core group of about 3 or 4 people who really want something to happen, but we need to somehow, and I think education and really hands-on, this is something practical you can really do, will be very helpful to get other parish members to buy into it, and to get active and grow that small base that we have. Laura, I was excited to hear that you all got a grant, and that's something else I would be interested in learning about. We do have an idea. We live in a very small town, but we're landlocked because we're right downtown, and so we don't have a lot of space around the church. And we have an idea for something, but it would definitely be a grant idea. It's something that would be a big expenditure, bigger than our little congregation could do. So I would be interested in learning about places to go to look for grant work.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely.
And any other thoughts or comments anybody wants to share? Go ahead.
Sheila?
I think that, like Laura said, the science about it, so that a lot of our congregation is older, and if I start spouting foreign words to them, they're going to be like, no, I'm out. So but at the same time, I don't know enough myself, even though I'm going to lead. I don't know enough to keep up with the big guys, because I'm a member of PAIPL, but I am so lost when I'm sitting in those meetings because I'm clueless as to what all of the big, huge words that they're using mean.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I can get to the medium stage where I know a
Yes.
medium amount, but yet I can still teach my older congregation the simple terms
Yeah.
so that I can understand, but so
Yeah.
they can understand. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
kind of where
Sheila,
I am.
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you
And
for sharing
the digestible science idea, it's one of the reasons we like the, now we know the drawdown framework, there's a couple of challenges with some denominations around drawdown as a whole. But we've gone through and very selectively pulled, are any of you familiar with Project Drawdown? Just raise your hand if you are. So yeah, excellent. Perfect. So drawdown is conceptually, it's the idea that it's a point where the drawdown point is the point in time in the future where we stop adding more carbon into the atmosphere and we actually start reducing it. So that drawdown point is that transition point. That's like a goal we're shooting for, right? And so they've gone through with a just amazing board of scientists and identified 160 solutions that we can do today, either on a individual, a corporate, or a government level, to actually start to make those changes. And so a lot of those are not directly applicable to a small church or a local church or a
large church.
So we've gone through and curated that list down to a really tight grouping. And for each solution that they present, there's actually the scientific basis for it, an estimate of how much carbon reduction would happen as a result of it. So that's kind of the pathway for introducing the science into this discussion and saying, here is the theology gives us the why, right? It tells us why we should care about this. The science gives us the how, and these are the choices we can make and lets us evaluate which ones have the biggest impact and where we can start. And then we talk about justice of how we can make sure as we apply these changes that it's done in a way that's equitable and fair. And so we bring those things together into discussion with each other. And it just really works out really well. And Laura, I'm not sure which version was that the drawdown book that you had that you showed?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not gotten into it, but I bought it after I started this project and have kind of leafed through it, but haven't really done any intensive reading yet.
Right.
Yeah, you can just do an internet search for Project Drawdown, and they have great material online. And we actually interviewed one of their scientists to help us do the whole introduction material. And
specifically for the church, though, we did. And what I would also say is that even going onto their website, it can seem a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's why the talk for specifically in the sessions for all the churches, for all of us as faith communities and churches, is very curated to, okay, so there's 120 to 160 solutions. Which ones make the most sense for us to be focused on as a church? And that we get, or household, church and home. And we've been able, with the help of scientists and researchers and lots of advisors, to narrow that down to, you can call it the big 5 or the big 8, that we as church and home can focus on, and then use some science to see how we can make those small changes and what kind of impact that has, very specifically. And we take them one at a time. Yeah. And so that's why we take that big, that's where that funnel comes in, is like, okay, there's lots out there, and lots of data and lots of science and lots of theology even. And we just bring it into something very specific that we can all embrace together and do together.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Any other questions? You guys have been great, and we're just thankful
Y'all.
for all of you. Thankful for the work. We hope we get to see you get to spend some time with you this summer and the fall. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we feel like we make friends every time we do this. So
people make friends amongst each other. We still have churches working together from who they met in the program, and doing projects together. Some churches that don't have land but have resources, or they have come together and are doing things together. So yes, so just a reminder of next steps. We really encourage, if you know you're going to do the program either this
go ahead and
summer or the
register.
fall, to go ahead and register, and then
Start bringing friends.
Start inviting other groups from your church, even if it's multiple groups like you were sharing about, Laura, or like you were sharing about, Laura Lunsford, other groups from your community that you're doing things with. So just encourage you to register as soon as possible, and then invite all the other folks that you would like to be in the program alongside you and with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question just popped into my head.
Yeah.
So if I invite people from my church, how do you know they're coming?
So we ask them just to register as an individual and to give your church name when they register. There's a place in the registration form to provide the name that they register as an individual and list the church name. And then we give the leaders the roster of everybody that's registered from their church.
Okay.
So that you can contact them and organize meetings and do all of that. So
I would also
awesome.
say, if you want to, and if it's usually better for them to register individually, just because of all the privacy.
You could also register them yourself if you wanted to.
You can absolutely go in and
if you
register.
had a list,
them
you could just
yourself.
sign them up. There's no cost to it. So.
If there's an assistant or an intern and you want them, say, go onto the website and sit and register all these people, all these folks, their names. It's just their name and their email address. Absolutely have your assistant, if you have an assistant, or somebody helping you, or you want to just do it so it's off your mind. And then from there, we take it from there. They will be sent reminders and updates, and you will be getting everything they're getting, except you'll get a little bit more, but they will get reminders of the program's about to start, and it's automatic. And then if they aren't at a session, then they automatically get a recording. So if you want to go in and register them yourself, it's free. Just go in and knock it out. So that's the easiest way to do it.
It doesn't matter to us which way you do it. It's fine. Okay. All right. Last thoughts.